What's up, tea cats? Dylan here from Wu Mountain Tea. Today we have chapter 4 of the Masterclass on tea, where we will be formally assessing tea quality. We're going to be going through the whole process of how to formally and objectively assess tea quality using 2 green tea samples. We have one really high grade first flush organic green tea, and we have a second supermarket bought, tea bagged, very low grade green tea. Now the point of this video is not to show you which tea is higher quality than the other. I already indicated one's high grade and one's low grade, but rather the purpose of this video is just to show you and demonstrate how to formally conduct your own tea tasting. Because there is actually a standardized set of procedures for how to do this objectively. And the skill of knowing how to do this is maybe one of the most important for anyone who's serious about tea. As always with this masterclass, I'm going to kick the chapter off with a 1-sentence summary of the whole content of the video. So here it is for chapter 4. Formal tea tasting is a systemized procedure that uses established standards for tea color, shape, aroma, and taste to objectively compare teas and identify their relative strengths and weaknesses. Next, we formally break down that sentence and objectively catapult you out of this video with a crystal clear understanding of tea tasting and tea quality assessment.
会把这个传统茶文化带回去美国，在那边推广一下。
So here in chapter 4, we're infusing tea leaves. And in chapter 5, the next chapter, we're also talking about infusing tea leaves. But there is a key difference between what we're doing here and what we'll be doing in the next chapter. The difference is that in chapter 5, we're going to be infusing tea to optimize flavor quality. We're infusing the tea leaves to create the best cup of tea possible. But here in chapter 4, that is not the objective. In fact, it's almost the opposite. Here we're infusing tea leaves in order to identify the weaknesses and potential faults in the tea leaves and tea quality. Now to do this, there are 4 domains, you could say, for assessing tea quality. In Chinese, we say 色香味形, color, aroma, taste, and shape. And we are assessing those 4 quality domains through 5 steps of tea tasting. We start with the dry tea leaves, and then we infuse the tea, we look at the soup, we smell the aroma, we taste it, and then finally 5, we assess the infused leaves. Now a really important thing here is that whenever you're doing a formal tea tasting, you need a rubric. You need a piece of paper where you're recording notes as you go through each of the 5 steps. So here I have a rubric for assessing green tea quality. I will make a blank version of this rubric available to you for download if you use the links in the description. But again, this is a formal process where taking notes, it is very much a task where you have to be focused and diligent on taking notes and recording what you observe. All right, so let's start things off with step 1, which is assessing the dry leaf quality. All right, so here we have the high grade first flush green tea, and here we have the supermarket bought tea bag tea. Now for dry leaf quality, we are assessing uniformity of shape and color. We're also assessing wholeness and cleanness. So uniformity of shape and color. So in this tea, I mean, the color is all over the place. You see yellow, you see brown. I mean, guys, in green tea, you should be looking for green, and some yellow is acceptable for some tea types, but you don't want to see a lot of yellow. You should be looking for different shades of green. And that's not to mention brown. I mean, the fact that I'm seeing brown in this dry, uninfused tea leaf is really bad. I'm also seeing twigs, stems, right? Complete lack of uniformity between the leaf material in this tea. So the shape is not whatsoever uniform, neither is the color. I'm seeing a lot of brown. Wholeness and cleanness as other quality indicators for dry tea. I mean, let's not even mention wholeness. Like, this is just chopped up. There isn't even a semblance of a whole tea leaf in this. So you get 0 points for wholeness and cleanness. I mean, it's honestly hard to tell what is the tea and what's not here. All right, so now let's compare that to the other green tea that we have. So here, we can see way more uniform, way more uniform in terms of color and shape, right? You have some lack of uniformity in terms of shape. You have some more scraggly pieces. You have some more straight pieces. So I am seeing a tiny bit of yellow discoloration in some of the leaves, but by and large, pretty uniform color, fairly uniform shape, and we are seeing whole tea leaves that is clean, right? We're not seeing any extra stuff in there that shouldn't be in there. All right, so now I've assessed dry tea leaves and I'm gonna take notes. So dry tea leaves, that's out of 10 points. Supermarket tea is getting 2 points out of 10. I mean, technically there are some tea leaves in there. So we don't only wanna write the number, but we also wanna write what we observed. So we say brown, lack of uniformity, right? You want to write the things down that scream at you, the big red flags, whatever you notice that you're like, that is out of whack, that shouldn't be there, you write those down. So sticks, I'm seeing sticks that looks like there's hay in here. Why? I see pieces of plant material that's not from a tea plant. So I don't know what that is, but it shouldn't be there. So sticks, hay looking things, hay looking stuff. For our first flush tea, I'm seeing slight yellowing on some leaves, but overall uniform dark green color. All right. And also note, in this step, we're not really assessing aroma. I often see for people who don't really know how to assess tea leaves, when I hand them some dry tea leaves, they smell it like that. And when you're talking about real tea that's not scented with external additives and things like that, then the dry tea leaves don't really have a very pungent aroma. It's really only after you infuse the tea leaves that you can start assessing aroma. So here we're only using visual cues to assess shape and color. All right, so what we're gonna do next is infuse the tea leaves. Now, there's a crucial distinction between tasting tea and tasting things like wine. With wine, you uncork the bottle and you pour it right into a glass and you can drink it. But for tea, we need to infuse the tea leaves before we can drink the tea liquor. So when you're doing an objective formal tea tasting, you have to, the key part is to make sure that the infusion protocol is the same across the board. You need to weigh out the tea leaves, right? So I weighed ahead of time 3 grams for each of these tea leaves. These are special tasting cups, which are 150 milliliters. We're gonna be using 100 degrees Celsius water, so 212 boiling hot, and we're gonna be infusing for 4 minutes. So these things, there's a set procedure for all of these different factors. That's what makes this a formal tea tasting versus you just pouring it in a mug and kind of smelling it and be like, oh, what notes do I get in here? No, we're keeping things consistent. This is very much kind of a scientific method that we're going through in order to objectively and systematically taste our tea and assess the quality. You might have heard me say boiling hot water, right? Today we're tasting green tea, and you might be thinking, wait, boiling hot? I thought we were supposed to use more like 80 Celsius or more like 175 Fahrenheit for green teas. The point is to really find any potential flaws in the tea, right? And with lower water temperatures, you can kind of conceal some of those faults a little bit. If the green tea is too astringent or too bitter, we're really gonna amplify those faults through using boiling hot water. Okay, so the water is coming to a roaring boil. You can probably hear it behind me. Now what we're gonna do is take our 2 tea samples and put them in our infusing cups here. All right. Down the hatch, down the hatch. It is important to take note of which tea you put in which cup. Obviously, the difference between these two, anyone will be able to tell the difference, but a lot of times if you're doing these formal tea tastings, you're using like 5 different teas, which are extremely similar to one another. For example, if you're running like a spring production batch of tea, then you'll have the production from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all right next to each other, and you'll be comparing those 5 to one another. In that case, it would be really easy to mix them up. So take note of which tea goes into which cup. So our water is boiled. 100 Celsius degree water here, and 4 minutes on the clock, go. All right, fill that up all the way. Fill that up all the way. We cap these guys have little caps. Now we are going to let these steep for 4 minutes. We're gonna come back, we're gonna do soup color, aroma, taste, and then we're gonna finish things off by assessing the infused tea leaves. And through all those steps, we're looking at color, shape, aroma, and taste. I'll see you in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And we're back. Now we are going to pour the tea leaves out. Normally we use these white bowls, right? You can see here, 茶叶生品用. So this is kind of a special tea tasting bowl, but I wanted to use these clear glasses because I feel like it'll give you a better look at the soup color. All right, so with these, it's a bit tricky. You kind of go slow at first, and then you commit like that. All right, slow first a while. I can already get the aroma from that organic first flush green tea. All right, we're gonna let those drain out. Already, you can see this has a bright, luminous green color to it. This, very yellow, touching on brown. On one side, you can see it's clear, bright, green with a tinge of yellow there. On this side, extremely turbid. Look how muddy and murky that is. Right? And then it's like an orange yellow touching on brown there on that side. So, all right, I'm already seeing huge differences between these two in terms of soup color. Now for soup, the main things that we're assessing quality on is color, right? Called chroma. We're looking at vibrance or luminosity, so how much light is being reflected through the soup, and more luminosity, more vibrance indicates a richer, thicker soup, more substance in the tea itself. The last thing is turbidity or clearness. Is the soup clear and crisp, or is it turbid? Is it murky? Now you can see why when we're studying how to carry out this process we're doing now, why it's good to use one high grade tea and one low grade tea, because on all of those quality components I just mentioned, this is far superior to this. All right, so this is the high grade green tea here. Again, in terms of color, that is what we want to see for a green tea. That is perfect. That is beautiful green tea color right there. It's a bit on the yellow side, but this is a pan-fired green tea. And you'll remember from chapter 1 and 3, we've talked about pan-fired versus steamed green tea. The pan-fired green teas do get a bit more yellow than steamed green teas. Steamed green teas, in the soup color, you'd see like this really pure, crisp emerald green. And that's why it's important to know which tea type and subtype it is when you're assessing, right? So I wouldn't really mark negative points for this slight yellow coloration in the soup because it's a pan-fired green tea. If I saw that same yellow coloration in the steamed green tea where it's really supposed to be green, then that would be a possible loss of points there. But in terms of this particular subtype of green tea, that's a really nice green yellow. Again, really vibrant. Look how much light is being reflected through that tea right there. It's just radiating light. This, I mean, it's just extremely dull and way, way, way too brown. Way too brown. Okay, green tea, it doesn't, even the most pan-fired of the pan-fired tea, okay, a little bit of yellow is fine. Green tea should never be this brown or dark. That's insane. This is just not at all an acceptable soup color for green tea whatsoever. And then the turbidity. You can't even see through the glass. You can't even see through that tea. That's insane. I don't like that. I'm not looking forward to drinking this or smelling the aroma. I would usually never drink this tea, but I'm doing this for you. And notice these are my infusion cups right here. I have left the cap on these. I didn't take the cap off because we're kind of containing the aroma in there, which we're gonna assess right after this. So next on my list, right, I'm assessing soup color, which is worth 20 points. Soup color for the tea bag, supermarket tea, just brown, red, very turbid, murky, and dark. Not luminous, not what you want to see. For this guy, we have green / yellow green, great luminosity, and crystal clear. I mean, I can see right through that puppy. You can almost see me waving back here. Hello, hi. All right, and then try to see me waving back here through this. Nothing Nothing. You can't see anything. Great clarity for that one. So for soup color, I'm loving that. That's getting 18 out of 20. That's the score I'm giving that one. For soup color on this out of 20, I give it 4. 4. I mean, I want to give it 0, but I'll show us a small amount of mercy to this tea for the time being. I guess it could be darker. It could be more turbid technically. So, all right, you get 4 points. Sorry. Okay, now we're going to aroma. Aroma, you can assess the aroma of both the soup and the leaves. And the leaves are gonna be a lot stronger, more up in your face, have a lot more going on. So I usually start with the soup, kind of ease into things. Aroma is so tricky, so tough, because you're trying to use words to characterize a smell. And unless you practice tasting of beverages regularly, this is actually really hard to do. So this is one of the things that requires the most amount of practice when it comes to tea tasting. But you're just really, the first element of aroma is just what notes are in there. What does it remind you of? So I'm smelling like really sweet. So I get a lot of sweetness in there, kind of like almost like a cotton candy aroma. Writing down. As soon as you think about it, write it down. There's also like a pungency to it, like a sweatiness to it a little bit. And that's actually, you get that with really fresh green teas. It's almost like a fatty, sweaty, almost like tallow type aroma. That comes with when you cultivate tea under really good conditions. The tea leaves, and this is true for all plants actually, the way you can tell a really healthy tea leaf is the amount of wax and fatty coating that the tea leaf is built. I mean, it's the same for animals, right? When we have more than enough nutrients, we take that excess energy and we store it as fat. It's a problem when we have too much fat, but for most species in the animal kingdom, and obviously in the plant kingdom too, having too much energy is not usually an issue. So extra fat for plants and for animals is a good thing. Normally it shows that you're living well, you're doing good, you're eating. When tea leaves build up a lot of energy and they have everything they need to meet their demands, they start creating a lot more of these lipids. And so during tea processing, during that pan firing step, a lot of these fatty acids start breaking down and they kind of create that fatty aroma that you smell. So I'm getting like, it's like sweet, plus tallow, fatty, just really fresh and crisp. So writing, tallow, pungent, sweaty. I like that one. I like using sweaty. And then the other thing with aroma is that, so the first element is that you're just assessing what is it that you smell, the notes. But the second thing is that you want to assess the body of it. So how does it make your actual nose and your palate feel when you inhale this aroma? Some aromas will have more of an abrasive texture to them. They'll feel flat, they'll feel thin, whereas other aromas, they kind of enter the nose and it feels rich and full and smooth and just really soothing. So you have the quality of the aroma in terms of what does it remind you of? You have the body, right? That second part's called the body. What physically does it feel like in your nose? And then the third element of aroma is the length. So how long lasting is that aroma? Does it enter the nose and leave right away, or does it kind of like linger in there a little bit? So you have type, you have body, and you have length for aroma. All right, now let's do the supermarket tea. It smells stale. It's a palpable staleness in that. That's the first thing that you smell, stale. And then you kind of get like very dry, like autumn leaves, like a leaf pile in autumn, just like dry, decaying, lifeless leaf material. Yeah, just not what you want. Now, so that's kind of the warm up. The main aroma assessment comes from smelling the leaves inside of these tasting cups. So let's check this out. Oh, that induced a gag response when I smelled it. There's no height to the aroma. There's nothing that enters the nose and brings joy to the nose. I mean, it's very flat and dull and just not substantive. Like there's a lack, it's a void. It's an aromatic void. It's an aromaless aroma. Very, very, very flat. Just not really what you want at all. Oh my God, yes. I love that. That is just a punch in the gut. Ooh. Okay, so you do get differences between the soup and the leaves. There is a lot of overlap in the aroma qualities of these two, but they are different. And with this, I'm getting like a meatiness. I'm getting a meaty, like a beef jerky right now, like smoked meat. And that If you'll remember from chapter 3, that's Maillard reaction products. So that comes from the drying phase of green tea, where you have the amino acids and the sugars and you dry them out at the right temperature, and you have these new really like sweet meat, smoky, sweet barbecue, smoky, meaty. Oh, I love that. It is making me hungry, actually. Smelling that, it smells like food. Like I'm getting hungry just smelling that. Oh, there's a brightness, a crispness to it as well. It's not just meaty, but it's like clean and pure and fresh. You also have those green aromas in there too. That's phenomenal. I love that. So, okay, now aroma. Cotton candy, sweet, tallow, sweaty, meaty. A lot of meatiness in there, crisp, fresh. All right, now this one, dull, lifeless. Lack of character, lack of vitality. Yeah, just stale cardboard, dead plant matter, low body, not much stimulation of anything. For the other one, sweet, tallow, pungent, sweaty, meaty, crisp, vibrant, right? Feels good, makes you hungry. Fantastic. So for the organic green, I'm giving you 23 out of 25 points. For the supermarket, out of 25, you get, Jesus. I mean, it didn't smell putrid. Like some teas, really terrible teas that have gone bad or have rotted, they will literally smell rotty and bad and like disgusting. So it didn't have that. It could be worse, but I'm gonna give you 8 out of 25. Still terrible. All right, taste. So let's try sampling this. Now, normally, if you're tasting with other people, you have spoons that you would kind of spoon out of the cup. Each little tasting cup here would have its own spoon, and you kind of have your own cup and you go and spoon it out into your cup. But I'm a one-man tasting team today, so I am just gonna drink it right out of the thing. So let's start with the supermarket tea. Okay. Oh my God, that was way worse than I thought it would be. Oh, it tastes like bile acid. That assaulted my mouth. That was awful. That was so acrid. My stomach is like it's churning right now. It's like, it's hurting my stomach. It's so acidic and astringent and gross. My God, that is awful. I thought it would be bad. I didn't think it would be that bad. That was just maybe one of the worst sips of tea I've ever had in my life. All right, I'm gonna do another one. I don't want to be drinking this tea. I'm doing this for you, so you better thank me in the comments section that I'm drinking this. When you're tasting, you'll know this if you've tasted wine before. You wanna slurp it, and that aerates the whole palate and it spreads the tea across your whole tongue. All right, I guess I'll go for one more of these. Mix it up a little bit. It tastes like battery acid right in the back of the throat. Just huge activation of bitter. Just bitter and acrid, no savory, no sweet, just really vile. That's awful. I hated every second of that. So with taste, the main things that we're focusing on is the 5 tastes, right? The 5 taste senses: bitter, salty, sweet, savory, and sour, right? This is acrid, which is a disgusting combination of sour and bitter. And the second part of the taste assessment is body, right? So similar to the aroma body, but taste body, it's astringency, how smooth is it? How does it make your mouth physically feel? So with this, it was sharp, it was flat, it was really not a full-bodied mouthfeel whatsoever. All right. This is why I saved this for second, because I knew that would be bad and I needed this to be the second more lasting flavor in my mouth. But, right, I want to be objective. I don't want to go into it thinking that it's going to be better. I know it will be, but in general, one of the key words in that one sentence summary is objectively. All right, we're trying our best to be unbiased through this whole process. Ooh. Okay, so the main difference here is that there's a whole different element of sweet and savory that lacks completely. The biggest difference between high-grade teas and low-grade teas is the amino acid content, right? Both high and low grade teas will have a lot of tea polyphenols, which are bitter and astringent, but only the higher grade teas will have the amino acids to counteract that bitterness and astringency. And you get a ton of that with this. You know what's interesting is that you also get a lot of bitter in this too. So actually it's a really enjoyable bitter, right? The thing with this was overly astringent and acrid and way too sour. That was with the supermarket tea. But with this, you have like, it's almost like an enjoyable bitterness, right? Which comes from compounds that are made when tea leaves are full of substance, like caffeine, for instance. The caffeine will be produced in tea leaves when the tea leaf is thriving and living its best life, essentially. I get bitterness in this, but it's well-rounded. It's balanced out by these sweet and savory amino acids. And then you have good, crisp structure that's balanced with those components that's brought from the tea catechins. Yeah, bold, potent, and you can even start to get new aroma notes when you do tasting. So sometimes you'll get, it's called a retronasal aroma sensation, where it'll be through tasting, it'll go up into your olfactory system through the back of your mouth. So I'm actually getting like notes of cacao a little bit, some slight notes. So when you're doing taste, sometimes you'll get these aroma notes. You can go back up to the last section and add in the notes that you get. So I'm loving that. It's balanced. The aftertaste. So that's the third component of taste. You have the five senses, you have the body, how does it make your mouth feel? And then you also have a duration over time thing where that aftertaste, it's kind of a length of taste. And I'm getting like this savory, lingering, enjoyable aftertaste with this. It's kind of still triggering that savory sensation on my tongue like 5-10 seconds after I've already drinking it. Wow, just so much substance, so rich, really so rich. It coats the whole inside of the nose, through the back of the throat, coats this entire area and fills it with this cloud of pungent, sweaty, sweet umami cacao with like a touch of cotton candy. I am just in love with this right now. This is awesome. All right, so basically everything that I've said about these two teas in terms of taste that I've been talking about the last couple minutes, we're writing this all down. So for the supermarket tea bag tea, taste, acrid, sour, way too astringent, no sweetness, no savory. I'm going to write vomit inducing. I'm sorry, but that didn't you? That was my first reaction when I drank it. I literally gagged. So I'm being objective here. It induced a vomit response in me, so I'm writing it down. I'm sorry. Now this guy. Oh, I can still taste it. I still have the sweetness right up in the top of my nose, and the astringency is just perfect. It's drawing out the tissue in my mouth just a little bit, but it's perfect, it's enjoyable, it's nice, it's balanced with the bitter, with the sweet, with the umami. So substantive, so rich. Sorry about that. It's like, oh, it's still like evolving and changing. My mouth is just still working with it. You have waves of mouth-watering sensation followed by some slight dryness of the mouth tissue, followed by like mouth-watering sensation again. And the aroma is still up here. I am just over the moon with this tea. Okay, savory, sweet, good bitter, right? Bitter is not inherently good or bad. We automatically want to slap a bad connotation to bitter, but bitter is an extremely natural part of tea. Caffeine is bitter and tea polyphenols can be bitter. It's really just about the degree. Is it the appropriate amount of bitterness or is it too much? And again, this comes from tasting 100 different teas. And this is another element where practice makes perfect. And you really got to put the repetitions in so that when you try a tea, you have that mental data bank. You go back and you're like, all right, is that too bitter or is that not bitter enough? You have a bunch of other teas to compare it with. And again, if you've infused them all with the same infusion conditions, then it's a fair, objective assessment. So good, bitter, savory, sweet, long finish. There's a lot of technical kind of like tea tasting terminology that exists, and it's the same thing for wine. So on these pieces of paper that I'm making, I'm gonna make a different one for each of the 6 tea types. And it's gonna be a rubric where you can go through and it'll be, dry leaf, liquor, aroma, taste, infused leaf. And then we'll have, here I have determinants of tea quality, just some reminders of like what you're supposed to be looking for. And then I'll have a little cheat sheet on the bottom, which gives you some vocabulary. It sparks some ideas that might be some words that you can start to use in assessing your tea, because it's really the assignment of words to these sensations in the nose and the mouth that is difficult and takes practice. But if you have kind of some good vocabulary to get into it with, then it kind of expedites the whole process. All right, so that's it for taste. All right, now last but not least, we have the infused leaf. Getting the camera back going here so that you can see what I'm seeing. So infused leaf. I want to finish this. Where was I? What am I doing? Infused leaf. After you're done with all the other assessments, you turn it over, you dump it out onto the lid, right? You dump both out. And then we can use the infused leaves to get more information about the tea. So some things to look for with the infused leaves. Now you can actually use your fingers, right? So now we're adding our sense of touch into our assessment of tea quality. You want a sense for tenderness. The standards of tenderness are different for different tea types, right? Oolong comes from a little bit older leaf material, so it's okay if that one's a bit rougher, right? You don't hold that to green tea tenderness standards. But green tea in general, the more tender, the better. So we're using our fingers, right? That is soft, very tender, nice. I like it, feels good. I would put it on my face, and actually I do that sometimes. When I finish green tea, I'll kind of wipe it on my skin. And all right, now this one, extremely coarse, rough. Feels like sandpaper. Yeah, feels like wet sandpaper. Okay, color, right? Again, color, you can get a good look at color. See how this one over here, bright, uniform green, right? This is remind you, if you're looking at this tea here, you would forget that you're drinking green tea, right? If you're looking at this guy, you might not even know that you're drinking green tea. That is green. Green tea should be green. Okay, good color, I like that. It's good and uniform, it's got a bright, nice greenness to it. This is dark, brown, red. Awful. Okay, so color totally depends on the tea type that you're having. For example, if we're looking at infused leaves of a black tea, and I see this color of green in the black tea leaves, that's big negative points. You don't want to see that greenness in the black tea. That means that the fermentation step was done incompletely. There was not thorough, good, full fermentation of the tea leaves. If you're seeing that color in black tea, you lose big points for that. But in a green tea, you see this color, big ups. You get bonus points for it, right? That's a great green tea color. And likewise, right, if I were to see brown or red coloration, typical of a black tea, in these green tea leaves, that's bad. You don't want to see that. That means that you didn't fix the green tea leaves thoroughly enough, and there was still enzymatic oxidation happening after fixation of the green tea leaves, which, remember from chapter 3, that's the main objective for green tea processing. You want to stop the enzymes. You want to preserve that green, crisp freshness. That's looking good. That's not looking good at all. Very tender sandpaper. Nice, fresh and green, dark, colorless, lifeless, looks gross. For everything, we want to be looking at uniformity. Uniformity is a big unifying factor for all of the quality domains. How uniform are these leaves? They're not perfectly uniform, right? Not everyone's the same. My friend actually made this tea this spring. He's kind of a smaller scale guy. He does the whole thing himself. He's not one of the types to really have every single piece of every tea leaf exactly perfect. There's a bit of lack of uniformity there. This one, I mean, it just looks like sludge, honestly. That just looks like a sludge. I mean, I don't even know how to assess uniformity of shape in that anymore. I'm getting heated assessing this tea, if you couldn't tell. It's just sad that people still subject themselves to this. I'm getting on my pedestal here. I'm gonna get off my pedestal. All right, let's finish out infused leaf. Yeah, so uniformity, and then the last thing, you can really just take these leaves and open them up and examine for potential flaws or potential weaknesses. So here we can open it up. We have a nice full tea leaf right here. Okay, look at this young, tender, nice looking green tea leaf. Just a beauty. Just a beauty. So you can see it's pretty uniformly green. You don't have red splotches in there. It looks bright, it looks vibrant. It's really tender. You can't really see that aspect of it, but trust me, it's really soft. Tastes good. It's great. Okay, so all these things that we just said about infused leaf, we're writing them down. Sand, paper, sludge, dark, no uniformity. I mean, there's uniformity in its sludginess, I suppose, but you can't even see the leaves, so I don't even know. This one, there's not complete uniformity, but that's okay. That's not complete uniformity of shape. We have great uniformity of color. Color, tenderness, very tender, very soft. Tender and soft, good. That just shows that it's young leaf material. So higher up on the tea plant, we have that younger, more tender, soft, young buds and leaves. That's the flavorful stuff. That's the good stuff. That's what we want to be drinking. That is that right here. And then color. Yeah, color, we just have a nice, bright, crisp green. Good. So out of 10 points, the teabag tea you get 1 point, honestly. Like, this might be the worst part about it. I literally can't with this tea anymore. This, you know, a little all over the place, right? We got big pieces and small pieces, but good color and really good tenderness. You get 8 points for that. Okay, now we have given points to all of our different quality domains. We're gonna add them up. Oh wait, I didn't give points to taste. Let's see. Taste for the supermarket tea bag. You're gonna get, oh my God, that was way worse than I thought it would be. 7 points out of 35. I can't give you any more than that. Taste for this, I loved that taste, if you couldn't tell. Gonna get 33 points out of 35. Good job, keep it up. All right, so now let's add up all the points. 22 points out of 100 for the supermarket tea bag tea. Absolutely fail, massive fail. Okay, now we have this first flush, organic green tea, 8 plus 18, that's 26, 90. You get a 90, that's an A-. All right, pretty good, A-. Nice. So now that you have your assessed scores out of 100, you can compare and contrast and review and go over your notes. And that is a formal tea tasting. That is how you objectively compare and contrast different teas. We went through the whole process. We did 色香味型 through 5 different steps, from dry leaves to infused leaves. That's it for chapter 4. In chapter 5, like I mentioned in the beginning, we're infusing tea with the purpose of optimizing flavor quality. This is no longer comparing and contrasting in a scientific procedural way. This is making the best cup of tea possible from your tea leaves. This can include making tea just for yourself, but we're also going to talk about gongfu tea, preparing tea for other people, different tea infusion methods, how tea type affects how you infuse the tea leaves. A really interesting topic, and another super important skill to have as you become a more and more serious tea drinker. Try what you learned today out at home and let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions. Be active in that comment section. I have responded to every YouTube comment so far, and I don't plan to stop anytime soon. So until next time, I want you to stay healthy, stay positive, most of all, keep sipping tea. One love.